In one of my recent videos, I talked about architecture school and how intense the experience at design school can be, creatively and personally. But something I didn't really speak to is what happens after. What it actually looks like to try to hold on to your creativity once you start working in a highly demanding, long-term profession. And if you're someone who carries a lot of responsibility in your work, but still feels the pull towards expressing your own creativity, this might resonate with where you are right now. Before we dive into today's conversation, I would just like to say hello and welcome. I'm Janet, architect turned creative renewal coach and watercolor artist. I founded Blueprint to Brushstrokes to support mid and late career creatives who feel burned out, emotionally depleted, and completely disconnected from their creative work. But more than that, I'm really trying to create a space where thoughtful, sensitive people can reconnect with themselves and express their creativity without fear or judgment. That's also why I share longer reflections and prompts through my blog and newsletter. Some ideas need more space than a YouTube video allows, and those have become quieter, more personal spaces to continue the conversation. What I've seen in myself and in others is that when the creative part of us gets pushed aside for too long, it doesn't disappear, it just gets quieter. The spark inside starts to dim, and over time, that can look like loss of joy, a kind of low-grade exhaustion that doesn't fully resolve, or a sense that something important is missing or lost. Not dramatically, just gradually. And this is something I've had to navigate over many years, both through my work in architecture and through multiple cycles of burnout and recovery, and eventually finding my way back to creativity in a more intentional and sustainable way. But even with that awareness, figuring out the balance isn't a one and done kind of thing. Because life changes, roles expand, responsibilities increase, and sometimes unexpected events shift things in ways we couldn't have ever planned for. Recently, I found myself in a season where my own professional responsibilities have shifted quite significantly and in ways I couldn't have anticipated even a month ago. And in moments like this, resilience really matters. But something I've come to understand is that my creativity and the dreams connected to it aren't optional. They're essential. And in many ways, I need them now more than ever as something that sustains me. And at the same time, maintaining that connection and protecting my own well-being means recognizing that the structures I had built to support my creative work also has to change. But not to disappear completely. Just become something different for this particular season. I think this is the part that can feel confusing, especially if you've already done a lot of work on reconnecting with your creative practice. Because you might think, I had a system, I had time carved out, I was showing up. But when the conditions change, that system doesn't always hold. Not because you failed, but because the structure it depended on has shifted. This is actually one of the reasons I created the Creative Confidence Reflection Guide. Sometimes the problem isn't that you're doing something wrong. It's that you're trying to use a strategy that belonged to a different season of life. So, the question I've been sitting with is, what does it look like to stay connected to creativity when I can't show up the way I used to? And what I'm starting to realize is maybe this isn't a season for growth, or consistency, or momentum. Maybe it's a season for something quieter. Conservation. Not building more, but not letting go completely. And that's really the heart of the North Star Mini Reset as well. Helping people stop trying to force their way forward, instead understanding where they are before deciding what comes next. And I've been thinking about it like this. There's a difference between creative expression when you have the space to grow and creative conservation when you're simply trying to stay connected. and both are valid. They both belong, but just in different seasons. So, in practical terms, right now, for me, this is looking like creating in smaller ways, simplifying what I'm sharing here, letting things be less polished, but more honest. It might be a short sketch instead of a full painting, a simple video like this one, or even just noticing and collecting ideas that I'll use for later. Nothing dramatic, just staying in relationship with my creativity. And I've learned this the hard way, that when you maintain even a small connection to your creativity during demanding seasons, it's much easier to return to it fully later. You're not starting over, you're continuing. So, if you're in a season where your capacity feels stretched, where creativity isn't showing up the way it used to, please know that you're not alone in that. And it doesn't mean you've lost anything. In fact, many of the conversations I've been having lately begin right here, with someone realizing they haven't lost their creativity at all. They've just entered a season that requires a different approach. If today's conversations resonated with you and you'd like to explore these ideas further, you'll find links below to the resources I've mentioned throughout this video. And if you're looking for more personalized support, I am still keeping open a small number of one-to-one creative reset conversations where we can explore what's actually getting in the way of your creative renewal and what a sustainable path forward might look like for you. I'd love to support you if that feels like the right next step. The takeaway today is this: creativity doesn't disappear when life gets full. It just needs a different way of being included. And in seasons like the one I'm in right now, smaller, quieter, more consistent connection is enough. If this resonated, I'd love to hear. What does creativity look like in your life right now? Until next time, wishing you a grounded and grace-filled creative day. Even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, as long as it's just for you.